Guest blogging is really about taking the skills that you have and the expertise that you have as a blogger and blogging on other people's blogs, basically being a guest in posting your content on other people's blogs. That's essentially and simply what guest blogging is.
You're listening to the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier sponsor, ABC Financial, the leaders in software and payment processing solutions for the health and fitness industry. Welcome along to the show. I'm your host Chantal, and September is our Women in Fitness Month, where we feature accomplished and inspiring women from inside and outside our industry. Today's guest is Amanda Vogel. Amanda has a master's degree in human kinetics and she's a certified fitness instructor. She regularly speaks at top fitness conferences, including Idea World, CanFit Pro, and URSA, where she educates fitness professionals on group exercise, social media, fitness writing, and blogging. Plus, she recently completed her role as the social media and technology track captain for the American College of Sports Medicine's annual summit meeting. And if you tuned into last week's Pre-Call Quickfire 5, you will have heard that in addition to being a social media consultant for fitness brands and public figures, Amanda also reviews fitness technology, exercise gear, and workout wear on her blog fitnesstestdrive.com, which we talk about today. For long-time listeners of the show, you might recall that Amanda first appeared with us way back on show 4 in 2015, where she talked about strategies for social media success. This time, she's joining us to chat about guest blogging. So if you want to get your brand and your voice out there in the world, then this is the show for you. During our chat, Amanda explains what guest blogging is, how to make money from it, and how to get guest blogging opportunities. Before we transition to my chat with Amanda, I want to say thank you to this week's podcast partner. ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service second to none, then choose ABC Financial. Request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com. Amanda, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I am so thrilled that you said yes to coming onto the show for our Women in Fitness Month for 2017. And, during your bio, I was just telling everyone about your website, fitnesstestdrive.com. I think that is the dream job because I'm always seeing you testing out and blogging about the latest and greatest fitness gear. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you do on Fitness Test Drive.
Yeah, so what I do on Fitness Test Drive is I like to, find the latest health and fitness gadgets, services, products, anything new or interesting that people are wondering about or talking about. I want to try it out. And then I like to really provide my honest feedback on the blog about what I thought about the product or the service based on the fact that I'm an insider in the fitness industry. I'm a certified fitness instructor. And also just based on my experience testing out so many fitness products over the years, I can really, look at a product, try it out and nail down what's really good about this product or different and maybe what needs a little bit of improvement sometimes. So I like to give kind of an honest feedback that people can really come to on the blog and find out a little bit about a product if they're wondering about if it's worth their time to try out or to buy.
Well, I've got to tell you, I'm personally jealous because I would love to have, the likes of Asics and Nike just, sending me a little parcel and going, hey, can you just test this out for us?
It is a lot of fun, I have to admit. It's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So obviously with all of your experience writing and blogging for the fitness industry, I thought it was really appropriate that you come on today and talk to us all about guest blogging. So let's get started. Do you want to give us a bit of an overview about what is guest blogging?
Sure. So people may or may not have their own blog where they would submit blog posts. Obviously, you can write on your own blog, but guest blogging is really about taking the skills that you have and the expertise that you have as a blogger and blogging on other people's blogs, basically being a guest in posting your content on other people's blogs. That's essentially and simply what guest blogging is.
Okay, so talk to us about how that benefits our business or how even we can make money from guest blogging.
Right. So it can benefit your business in a number of ways. One, it helps kind of increase your reach and increase your opportunity for other people to find out about what you do with your own blog or in the fitness industry specifically. It allows links, obviously, back to your website or your blog. That's another way that it can benefit you just in terms of business and marketing. But then you also have the potential to make money. So there's a few different ways that you can do that. One might be you're selling something on your own blog or website, and so it's a way for other people to find out about what that is and link back to your website. Another way is if you are maybe doing fitness influencer campaigns through social media where you have a certain number of followers and you're a fitness influencer in your area of expertise, you might roll the idea of guest blogging into a larger contract that you already have with the brand. So if you're working with a brand to promote their products or their services, you might say, look, as part of the value that I'm providing, I can actually do some guest blogs on the company's blog as well. And you roll that into whatever fee that you're charging. And then the third way, which is potentially maybe the most common way that people use guest blogging, is it's very much like having a magazine article assignment where you write a blog post for somebody else's blog and they pay you for that blog post in the same way that you might write an article for a magazine and they pay you for that article. So that's probably the most common and popular way that people make money with guest blogging.
Amanda, do you find that it's important that you have your own specialty and profile and maybe even website and blog already established before you go out and approach other people to actually submit your blog to other websites?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it depends very much on what your goals are. You might have someone who's doing a lot of guest blogging simply because they're trying to get their name out there in terms of being a blogger and they want to make money from guest blogging assignments in that way. But most people, and probably the smartest strategy, is that, yes, you already would have nailed down your own platform. You would have already developed social media accounts going, and you would have expertise in a certain area that you're trying to build up and develop based on the guest blogging opportunities that you might get. So when I do guest blogging, I like to, as much as possible, blog about topics that I'm already an expert in and that I want to help build up my platform and area, let people know I'm an expert in that particular area versus something that may be way off in left field that I don't really talk about or blog about very much on my own blog, which might not benefit me so much in terms of developing a platform.
Okay, so I want to share an example of my understanding of what a fitness professional could do, and if you can confirm whether or not I'm on the right track with this. So
sure.
Let's say, for example, I have a fitness business and I specialize in back care exercises for older adults. And
yes.
I'm an expert in that area. I do a lot of research into that area. I have a book that I sell on my website that is related to that. In that situation, I could potentially approach, let's say, a community group that speaks to older adults, a support group that speaks to older adults. I could approach trying to think of a good example, any type of website where that same audience is at, but not necessarily receiving information about my area of specialty. I could basically approach them and say, hey, I'm a specialist in this area. Would you be interested in me supplying you some blogs and information about back care for older adults? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. In that scenario, though, when you approach them in that way, so there's sort of two different types of blogs when you're thinking about guest blogging. There are those blogs that might be open to the possibility of you guest blogging for them, but they certainly don't have that structure in place for the blog. So they might be very receptive to having you contribute, but they're not necessarily going to pay you for it. Then there are those blogs that are already set up in terms of structure for accepting guest blog opportunities, and they already know that they're going to pay most of the time for those guest blog opportunities. So there's kind of two ways you can go about it. You can say, all right, I want to do some guest blogging and I'm going to just do it to try to reach new audiences and to build a platform and get my expertise out there in a particular area. Or you can say, I want to do all that, plus I actually want to receive a paycheck for it. So just because you approach a blog to do guest blogging doesn't necessarily mean they're going to pay you for it.
Okay, so that sets up a good scenario, because I reckon most people are thinking right now, well, I like the sound of option B. I want to
Yeah.
both of those things as a possibility. So let's talk about that. I mean, how do you even know if a blog accepts guest bloggers?
So you have to do a little bit of research. And one of the things that you can do is kind of keep your ears and eyes open in terms of maybe the blogs that you're already looking at and reading, and see, does it seem like maybe they're accepting guest bloggers? And one of the couple of ways that you can test for that is to go to the blog, search around and see, just look for keywords that you might see on the blog, like contributors guidelines or bloggers guidelines or write for us or be a guest blogger, any of that kind of stuff. You might find it on the About Us page. You might find it at the bottom of the blog. Search around for a little bit, and you can even do a Google search either for a specific blog that you're interested in, or even just a category of blogs, like blogs for older adults, or blogs for active kids, or blogs for new moms, whatever it might be, and tack on contributors guidelines or write for us, that kind of thing, to find out what's out there in terms of who's accepting guest bloggers. And then the other thing that you can do is just look at a blog and observe who seems to be contributing to it. If a blog has a lot of posts coming in from different authors, where the byline, that's the author credit that goes at the top, usually the top, sometimes the bottom of the blog post. If you're seeing a whole bunch of different ones, that's usually an indication that they're getting their content from a variety of sources. And it's a good lead that they're potentially paying for that content as well.
Amanda, one of the things that springs to my mind when I think about submitting a blog to a website like you've just given the example of is, how do I make my blog be seen, or how do I get the attention of that website so that they will actually publish mine or choose mine to be paid for amongst all of the others that I'm assuming that they're receiving? Do you have any advice or tips for us around that?
Absolutely. So the standard way to do it is with an introduction email that most people call a pitch, a guest blogger pitch. And you are essentially briefly introducing yourself and then providing for that blog that at this point you should already know accepts guest blog opportunities. You're providing them with one or more ideas about a guest blog post that you can write. So first you express your interest in being a guest blogger, and then you provide a little bit of detail about a blog post that you think might do particularly well on their blog. So going back to your example about, was it back exercises for older adults? Was that it? It could be a health and fitness type of blog that you are contacting, but it could also be a completely different type of blog that also caters to the audience you're looking for. So maybe it is a travel blog for baby boomers or people over 55 or 60, whatever it is. And that might be a place where you could actually contribute some guest blog posts, right? So it might not be a fitness blog, but the audience is right. And if the audience is right, if you can find a way to persuade the owner or the editor of that blog that, yes, in fact, a blog post about back exercises for this population, especially considering like how your back might get sore when you're traveling, when you're sitting on a plane or sitting in a car for a long time or walking around doing sightseeing. Think about ways that you can roll your expertise into something that would benefit the readers of that particular blog. So you make the case for that in your pitch email that you send to the owner or editor of the blog. So you introduce yourself, you briefly discuss the blog post that you'd like to write, and then you might include a few details about who you are and why you are particularly qualified to write that blog post. And then you kind of ask, is this a guest blogging post, a guest blog post, I guess, that you think would work on the blog that you're interested in?
Based on that kind of pitch that you're talking about, there's no reason why we couldn't use that same pitch to be a guest on a podcast, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can use it. In fact, it's based on the traditional querying approach, which is for fitness magazines. So I'm a freelance writer for magazines, and when I want to write an article for a magazine or a magazine's website, I send something called a query, which is essentially what I've just explained to you. It's a pitch explaining an article that I want to write and saying why I'm the best person to write the piece. So really a pitch email for guest blogging comes out of that tradition and is very similar to that. And absolutely, you could use it for any number of circumstances, including wanting to be a guest on a podcast.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've covered a lot already today. Are there any more kind of common do's or don'ts that we should know about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we touched on this earlier, and I think it's really important, especially if you have your own blog and do produce content for your own blog. You want to really, really make sure that whatever blog you're approaching to be a guest blogger on, that they do accept guest blog opportunities. And when in doubt, it's absolutely fine to send a quick email and ask them first, let them know you've looked around the blog, you enjoy reading the blog, you're not sure if they accept guest blogging opportunities and can they provide some insight. Because the last thing that you want to do is send a great blog post idea to another blogger when, they have no intention of hiring you as a guest blogger to do it. You don't want to feed other people your ideas if, they just don't accept guest blog posts. So that's one thing that I would suggest is if when in doubt, just contact the blog owner or editor and ask. Another thing is to make sure that after you send the pitch, sometimes if you're lucky, you will receive a feedback relatively soon. It might be a yes, it might be a no, it might be a maybe. But quite often what happens is you don't receive any feedback whatsoever. So you don't get a response in terms of to your pitch right away or after weeks. So what do? A lot of people kind of give up at that point and think, well, that didn't work, and they walk away from it and they don't try again. But it is very, very common to send pitches either for magazine writing or for guest blogging and not receive anything back right away. And not receiving anything back doesn't always necessarily mean that it was a total fail. It could actually mean that the person on the receiving end of your email sees it and goes, maybe that might work, but I got to check with so-and-so, or I got to see what we've got coming up in the lineup here. And you know how it goes with email, right? You receive an email and then you think, I'll get back to that later. And then it goes down your inbox, and all of a sudden you can't see it anymore and you've forgotten all about it. So that's a super common thing to happen. And my suggestion for anyone who sends out a pitch for guest blogging is if you don't hear back, then just follow up. Take a week, take maybe 2 weeks, I would say. And if you haven't heard anything, send just a polite follow-up that says, hey, I sent this pitch on this date, and I'm wondering if you've had a chance to review it and if you think it might work. Now, here's the number one bit of advice that I have, though, for following up. A common mistake, and it happens to me because people pitch products to me to review on my blog, and sometimes they'll follow up, but they don't remind me of what they're following up about. And then that means I got to go searching all through my inbox to figure out what is it that this person initially emailed me about, which just takes more time and probably decreases the likelihood that I'm going to get back to them in any kind of timely fashion. So when you follow up, always take the original pitch that you wrote, copy and paste it into your follow-up email so that people can see it again. So you follow up, you say, I sent this initial email. The topic was this. For your convenience, I've copied that original email below. So they don't have to go searching for it. They can see exactly what it was that you had originally emailed to them. And then they might be in a better position to make a decision right there on the spot.
That's such a great piece of advice. We want to make it easy for them to say yes and to get back to us. Yes. Amanda, have you ever, or does it happen that you submit a blog and you don't hear anything back, and then all of a sudden one day you stumble across that they've actually published it? Does that ever happen?
It is a very common concern, and it's a common concern in freelance writing as well. It can happen. It absolutely can happen. If it's ever happened to me, I don't even remember. The problem is that nobody owns ideas, right? So ideas are always kind of floating around there, and there is a strong likelihood that if you're thinking about a particular idea, especially if it's on trend or timely or, connected to a particular season of the year, that other people might be thinking about that too. So I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt that we might be thinking about similar things at similar times, but you can never 100% guarantee that if you send somebody an idea for something, that they won't take it and use it as their own. You can only kind of go in with the faith that they are honest, and that if they don't want the idea, they will say so and then not use it. Or if they do end up using something that sounds like your idea, that it's just kind of by accident at some time point down the line. But what I'm going to tack on this piece of advice to that is, because you kind of just have to go with a leap of faith on this, don't let that concern stop you from fully identifying what the idea is that you want to write about. So some people might go in and think, well, I'll write this pitch letter, but I'm not going to really tell them very much about what I want to do in case they try to steal the idea. You want to give them enough detail so that they really understand what it is that you want to write about. Now, when I say enough detail, I mean, like, you should be able to explain what you want to write about for the blog post in 75 to 100 words. You don't need a lot of word count to explain it. So certainly don't write the whole blog post just to explain what you mean. Certainly don't give so much detail that you're kind of going overboard. You can give enough detail in less than 100 words so that a blog owner or editor knows generally what you want to write about. And if they're interested, they'll contact you and ask for more. So don't make it so sparse that they don't know what you want, and don't make it so detailed that they could just basically run with it and use it on their own.
Amanda, I haven't looked this up in a little while, but a few years ago there used to be a website that was called Source Bottle, as in SOURCE Bottle, where publications could go on and say, oh, we're looking for experts in such and such, and then equally experts could go on and choose publications to submit their work to. Do you know if that still exists or anything similar to that?
I don't know if it still exists. There are other things that are similar to that. If you Google, actually one of them that I use a lot is, and it's not specific to blogging, although it does include blog posts, it's called Help a Reporter Out, HARO, helpreporterout.com. So that's one place that reporters, journalists, and bloggers go to find sources for their pieces, and also where sources can go to find, journalists or bloggers who might be able to quote them or include them in a piece. But I don't know about the one that you mentioned, whether it still exists or not.
Yeah, maybe it's an Aussie thing. Perhaps it's an Aussie website. That might be the case. But it sounds like the same thing anyway. I know that I used to find it quite helpful, and you could set up an automatic alert that came to your inbox when there was a topic that was relevant to you.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Help a Reporter Out does something similar. Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, Amanda, this has been so valuable. Thank you very much for jumping on and joining us and talking all about guest blogging. Are there any last pieces of advice that you would leave with our listeners?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was fun, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk about this topic. The last piece of advice that I would give is, if you are considering kind of getting out there in the world as a guest blogger, I want you to think about not just the act of producing a blog and sending it to someone who will post it on their blog, but also thinking about how can you add additional value to the relationship beyond just producing a blog post for that person or that company. And one of the ways that you can do it is to really think about, well, your blog post goes out there, it gets published, and then how can you contribute further? One of the ways is to make sure that you promote that content on your own social media channels. And I know that a lot of blog owners would want to know that as well. So, they might love the piece of the topic that you're interested in your pitch letter, but they also want to know, where does it go beyond there? So are you going to be able to share that content on Twitter, share it on Facebook, maybe promote it somehow on Instagram as well, so that it really increases your value as a guest blogger beyond just actually writing that blog post. And then if you can actually do other things as well, like creating video, creating photos that might go with the blog post, all that stuff also adds additional value and can really help you get guest blog assignments.
Amanda, this has been just so valuable. So thank you so much to any of our listeners out there that maybe are product suppliers in the industry. Perhaps you can test out your pitch and send your product through to Amanda as well. You never know, she might feature it on fitnesstestdrive.com. So Amanda, thank you so much for coming on and being our expert guest on Guest Blogging.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
This week we're bringing you a bonus interview and it's an event update. So it is my pleasure to be welcoming to the show Alison O'Kane-Gianaris, Associate Vice President International Development for URSA. Alison, welcome along to the show.
Thanks, Chantal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you are joining us today to tell us all about the URSA European Congress. Now, what are the dates for this year's event?
The European Congress will be held the 23rd through the 26th of October in London at the Park Plaza Hotel, Westminster Bridge.
And who should be attending?
The European Congress is an executive-level business networking event. So if you are involved in a decision-making capacity in the health club business, whether as an executive, owner, general manager, or investor, this is really a must-attend event for you. We will have single club companies, multi-site companies, and franchise clubs represented. We expect over 500 industry professionals and currently have people registered from 31 countries, and 4 continents. We will be having special group tours coming from several countries, which include Russia, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, and Norway. These country group tours do special social activities together, such as a city tour, a wine tour, dinners, sightseeing, which really helps build a sense of community among our attendees.
Alison, that sounds amazing. I've just got to jump in and say I think we need an Australian contingency going over as well.
Yes, Chantal, I think that's a great idea. And you would be a great tour leader.
Absolutely. I'll volunteer for that role.
Okay, great.
And tell us a little bit more about the event itself, Alison.
Sure. We are in the 17th year for the Congress, and it rotates around Europe. It's nice because each year we focus on a different country, learning a bit about the culture, and of course, the health club industry in the local market. We have repeated a couple of cities, and London is one of them. We were in London in 2003, so we are very excited to be coming back. I would say the Congress is one of the best networking opportunities for the industry in Europe, with more than 500 industry professionals. It includes roundtable discussions, lunches, an evening reception, and plenty of opportunities to build relationships with colleagues from throughout Europe. For the theme of the event, I forgot to mention, it is technology and fitness, staying ahead in an evolving industry. We are very excited about the program this year. Our presenters include futurists, a psychologist, a performance coach, entrepreneur, professor, author, technologist, and industry leaders.
It sounds fantastic, Alison. So into the detail of it now, how does everyone register? And I believe that you've got a special offer for the FBP family.
People could register on our website. It is ursa.org/Congress, and there's a blue register button. And on the registration, if you enter the promo code 17AOK-2, you would be able to receive a €50 discount off of your registration.
That is a fantastic offer. Thank you so much for that. And I'll just remind all of our listeners that you can, of course, also head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and we'll make sure that we include that link to the European Congress on our show notes this week. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today and telling us all about the 2017 URSA European Congress.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chantal.
MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, Go to myzone.org.
Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
Kristen Green is the Executive General Manager of Aquafit in Sydney, Australia. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chantal. It's a real honour and a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited that we finally got you on the show, and we're doing it during Women in Fitness Month. Now, are you ready for your Pre-Core Quickfire 5 questions?
Absolutely.
Tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
I want to make a difference every day.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Treat others the way that you want to be treated.
And what's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
Be an insatiable learner, and as a proverb goes, it's what you learn after you know that counts.
And you are an insatiable learner, and we're going to talk about that in the main interview a little bit more next week. Tell us, speaking of learning, what's one book or podcast or blog that you'd recommend and why?
Anything by John Maxwell, in particular, probably Developing the Leaders Around You, because really you can't do it alone as a leader. You need to grow and develop a team of great people around you. And one of a leader's greatest roles, I believe, is to acquire and retain great people.
That is a great book recommendation. We'll make sure that link goes into the show notes. Last but not least, why should our FBP family come back and listen next week?
I'll share my insights on how to maintain relevance, motivation and longevity in the fitness industry, particularly after being in a role for 14 years, but at the same time whilst learning and inspiring a high-performing team at a multi-award winning fitness centre.
I'm super excited to have you on the show joining us next week, and thanks for joining us for the Pre-Core Quickfire 5 today.
Thanks, Chantal.
Before I sign off for today's show, there is only a few days to go before our FBP family meetup at Club Industry Show. The date for the meetup is Wednesday, October the 4th. We're getting together at 6 a.m. You need to put on your activewear, and the cost, well, it's free. Everyone is invited to come along for this active networking event. We're going to be walking 45 minutes around Millennium Park and returning back to the Hilton by 6:50 a.m. The FBP family meetup is the perfect way to start your day, and you never know who you're going to meet there. To register, go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and at the top of the homepage, you'll see a link there to the meetup page. Jump over there and make sure you leave your details to register. I hope I'm going to see lots of you there at the event. Thank you so much to everyone for including the Fitness Business Podcast as part of your weekly professional development. I would love you to share the show with your team, and don't forget all of the resources, links and transcripts for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you so much to all of our partners for their support, and to our foundation partner, Active Management. You can head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for a free business development ebook. That's everything for this week. I will see you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.